it's Mr. Peterson. This screencast is about how things get in and out of cells. So movement across membranes. So things tend to follow a concentration gradient from high to low. So the question is, why do they do that? Why do you suppose they do that? So stop in your notes right now and write down why you think things move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. We call that the concentration gradient. So why do you think? All right, let's watch some molecules here. So we've got a couple of different kinds of molecules, and they're moving around. Why are they moving around? Well, because they have some kinetic energy. So just the random movement of molecules. Now, if we follow them, I'm going to add a little tracer to one of them. Just follow that molecule. Where's it going? It's going all over the place. Why? Well, sometimes it's not running into anything. Sometimes it is. So the random motion of molecules causes things to diffuse. Now, we call this kind of movement passive transport. It doesn't require cells to use any energy. The energy is simply provided by the movement of molecules. So that's called passive transport. There are a couple of kinds of passive transport. Diffusion, which is the movement of anything down a concentration gradient from area of high to low, and osmosis, which is the movement of water. All right? So simple diffusion, we go from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. And again, it doesn't require cells to do any work. It doesn't require any energy. It's simply the random movement of molecules, and it's trying to get to some type of equilibrium, some kind of balance between inside and outside of the cell. So that's passive transport. And diffusion is an example of passive transport. Again, moving down a concentration gradient. And it's all about the kinetic energy of the molecules. They're just moving at random because that's what molecules do unless they're really cold. So if we take a lump of sugar and we put it into a cup, it dissolves. Well, what happens? Well, we take that lump of sugar, let's slow it down some. And let's watch what happens to those molecules when you actually put it into the water. So you drop that lump of sugar in there, and the molecules start to move a little bit faster. That's the business of dissolving. And eventually, what do? Well, they'll spread out all over this beaker of solution. So that's diffusion. So what kind of things can diffuse across a membrane? Well, things that are lipid soluble, so like small steroids, they have to be kind of fats, and nonpolar proteins, so some proteins are nonpolar, and water, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Those last three are just pretty small. They can kind of sneak through the membrane a little bit, so water, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. And if you're lipid soluble, you can pass through the phospholipid bilayer, then you can. So oxygen and other small molecules can pass right through it. So what about things that can't? Right? So ions, they have a charge. The polarity of the membrane, non-polarity of the phospholipid bilayer, keeps that from passing through. Ion channels. So we've got these proteins that are embedded. That's how ions are going to get in and out of cells. So they can't just pass through. They need ion channels. So ions need that. What about glucose? Glucose is important, right? We need it for energy, but it's too big. It's too big. It can't pass through the phospholipid bilayer. So a membrane protein, we're going to need that. So here we've got a glucose channel that it's allowing glucose to pass through the membrane. We need that for energy. We'll see that. But it's just too big to pass through the phospholipid bilayer. And it's going to get in through something called like facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion means it's going to be helped. So we're going to be pushing it through. So you can see this glucose carrier molecule. It's pushing those molecules of glucose in and out of the membrane. So that's facilitated diffusion. It needs a little bit of help. So you can pause and take a look at this. So here's kind of a review. So molecules and how they move. So I've said like 60, 12, 475 times right now. That's really bad. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, you can pause this and read that for yourself. So I hope that helps because this is about passive transport.